Honor Blackman startled the world by wearing tight leather clothes that made censors go crazy. The United States banned her TV show. In Britain, whole scenes were cut. But that was only the start. She was using actual martial arts to toss grown men to the ground behind the cameras. She was 39 when she broke the biggest norm in Hollywood and became the oldest woman to seduce James Bond. But the most scandalous thing about her wasn't what she wore, it was what she did when no one was looking. Honor Blackman was born on August 22, 1925, at 200 Cumberland Road in Canning Town, Place Tau, which was one of East London's hardest neighbourhoods in the years after World War I. There were a lot of overcrowded tenements in the region, a lot of people were out of work, and flu epidemics were still widespread. Her father was a civil service statistician, and he made just enough money to feed his wife Edith and their 4 kids. The family's house didn't even have a bathroom inside until the late 1930s. For Honor, childhood meant playing in streets that had been destroyed by bombs and going to grammar school classes in shelters that had been set up because there weren't enough houses. Many of the kids around her were malnourished. Health statistics from 1926 show that 18% of East London kids had stunted growth because they were poor. There were church bazaars, brass bands, and free storytelling at the library in the area, which showed that the community was robust. Honor went to a library opening when she was 9 years old and listened to poems being read aloud. Later, she stated the moment seemed like finding a secret key to another universe, which made her enjoy performing. That never left her. Her father offered her an unexpected choice on her 16th birthday in 1941, while the Blitz was going on and rationing was getting stricter. She could get a new bike for 5 guineas or take private elocution lessons for 10 shillings each. She chose the classes even though she secretly wanted to race the boys in the neighborhood on a bike. That choice made everything different. Mrs. Marion Cody, her tutor, taught her about Shakespeare, John Donne's sonnets, and Ibsen's plays. Cody quickly saw how much she could do. She wrote to Honor's dad, telling him to sign her up for part-time classes at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. Frederick found a way to pay for the sessions, and in October 1941, when London was still being bombed every night, Honor started going to Guildhall. For many people living in Place TOS council estates, it was a leap they could only dream of. Honor did something even bolder the next year, when she was only 16. She volunteered as a motorcycle dispatch rider for the Home Office's Civil Defense, which is a position that males generally do. She got a 500 cubic centimeters Norton Model 18 with the code name test after completing difficult tests in motorcycle maintenance, navigation, and first aid. Because she rode through blackouts at high speeds without fear, frequently with Luftwaffe aircraft overhead, other bikers quickly gave her the nickname Top Gear Tessie. From her office at Downing Street, she took secret messages between Churchill's war chambers, the Ministry of Aircraft Production, and field hospitals. Some nights, she drove up to 120 miles in one shift. She risked her life on April 14, 1943, when she went to Victoria Station during an airstrike to give a microfilm with deciphered Enigma data. This deed was later called vital to operational security. She didn't have a weapon, just her long leather coat, which she joked may protect her from shrapnel. For decades, no one knew the full scope of these operations until she ultimately revealed them in a memoir in 2005. She started performing after the war. In 1947, she played a maid in Parliament in the movie Fame as the Spur, which was shot at Denham Studios. But things went wrong on set when a horse stomped on her braided hair during a cavalry action, pinning her head to the ground. It would have crushed her head if its foot had landed just a few inches farther forward. She was hauled out with a 2-inch-long cut on her head and had to have scalp grafts and eyebrow surgery at Charing Cross Hospital. She later said that no stunt in her James Bond career scared her as much as that horse did. At the same time, she worked long hours to pay for her school. She trained at Guildhall during the day and worked as a clerical assistant in the Home Office's Statistics Division at night from 1940 until 1946. She worked 57 hours a week on average, with 20 hours of drama training, 32 hours of secretarial job, plus schoolwork and long travels through dark streets. She processed 1,245 incoming messages in one shift on June 22, 1944, right after D-Day. Even when bombs rattled the office windows, she stayed cool. She often passed out from being so tired, but she kept going. She had a permanent job at the Home Office by the time she graduated from Guildhall in July 1946. She said no to it in order to get an opportunity to appear on stage, starting as an understudy in The Guinea Pig that September. Her career almost ended before it ever started. The main actress was sick on the first night, March 29, 1946, and Honor was put on stage without warning. She had never spoken in front of an audience before, yet she was so sure of herself that critics said she was astonishingly poised and magnetic. She got big parts within weeks, and her career took off. She joined the Charm School at Pinewood Studios in 1950. It was a company for young people that was part of the Rank organization. It promised young performers a future in movies, but the truth was quite hard. She only made $10 a week, whereas established performers made $100 a week. Studio bosses controlled almost everything. She did. The stress got so bad that she had to go to the hospital for 3 weeks in 1954. With a lot of anxiousness. Even though she had problems, she had great performances in movies like Quartet in 1948 and So Long at the Fair in 1950. In 1958, she left the Rank to take back control of her career. In the early 1960s, she had her biggest break on TV. She played Kathy Gale in The Avengers and insisted on executing her own battle scenes, although her pants kept shredding during practice. She had to cover up with a stage prop because of one embarrassing tear. Designer Michael Whitaker made a leather jumpsuit that was strong enough for combat but looked good on film to fix the problem. The dark green leather seemed black when filmed in black and white. This gave her the image that eventually inspired a pop song about her kinky boots. She trained at London's Butterquay to get ready for the part. The oldest judo club in Europe. She trained 5 days a week with Sensei Masaki Satake and learned moves like Osatagare and Kosotagake. And after just 2 years, she had acquired a brown belt, which was a great accomplishment for a woman at the time. Her real throws and holds on screen set a new bar for action scenes. They had an impact on future female action stars like Sigourney Weaver and Scarlett Johansson. Before she became famous, she built her name by giving great performances in movies in the 1950s. She displayed a lot of emotion as Paula in Quartet. She played the tough Mary Hart in Diamond City. And in So Long at the Fair, she did a great job as Rhoda O'Donovan when things were stressful. In A Night to Remember in 1958, she played Mrs. Liz Lucas, a passenger on the Titanic. This showed how graceful she was in sorrow. People already thought of her as more than just a pretty actress by the time she put on Kathy Gale's boots. When Honor Blackman took on a job that wasn't even meant for a woman in 1961, it changed the history of television forever. Ian Hendry, who played Dr. David Keel on The Avengers, had recently left after 25 episodes. The producers were in a hurry to find a substitute and hired Blackman at the last minute in a role that was originally meant for a man. She played the character precisely as it was, without changing the script, and her strength and authority stunned audiences. This choice made the first female action hero on TV who was truly equal. The Avengers was no longer just a show about a masculine detective. It had become something new and exciting, and Kathy Gale from Blackman was at the center of it. Her character quickly caused a commotion that even censors couldn't ignore. Kathy Gale was unlike any other woman on TV before. She wore leather, was confident, and battled back against criminals without feeling bad about it. In Britain, officials told the filmmakers to delete portions, such one whipping scenario that went from 12 strikes to just 2. In the US, certain episodes were prohibited because they were too inflammatory. But even though studio workers muttered about her tight leather costumes, people couldn't look away. Blackman's Gale was rarely knocked out and routinely fought off kidnappers. And had a confidence that other female characters of the time didn't have. She was the inspiration for series like Honey West in the US and even had an effect on the early conception of Doctor Who's characters. In every way, she was ahead of her time and embodied what would later be labeled girl power. Her picture had an effect on more than just the screen. She and Patrick Macnee recorded the novelty tune Kinky Boots in 1964. At the time, it failed and was soon forgotten. Simon Mayo, a BBC DJ, brought it back in 1990 as part of his Christmas custom of playing old, unknown music. It surprised everyone when it soared up the UK charts, where it stayed at number 5 for 7 weeks. The song was only a minute and 37 seconds long, which is very short for a song that made it into the top 5. The strange duet finally became a smash after 26 years. The leather outfits she wore were more than just a fashion statement. They came into being because they were needed. Blackman, who had been learning judo at the Budokway Club in London since 1961, insisted on doing her own combat scenes. The throws, flips, and falls she did on the concrete studio floors were too much for regular clothes. The wardrobe team had to figure out what to do when pants ripped and skirts split. Michael Whitaker, a designer, made a leather jumpsuit that was both fashionable and strong. The green leather looked dark and sleek on black and white televisions, which gave Kathy Gale her famous look. The attire triggered fashion trends all throughout the UK, and her boots became a national fad. Blackman later authored a book on how to defend yourself, which shows how seriously she took her job. There were several dangers behind the scenes of the show. The floors in the ABC studio in Teddington were made of concrete and didn't have any safety mats or padding. Blackman's promise to do her own stunts put her in genuine danger. She fell awkwardly during one scene and hurt herself badly enough to stay off set. 4 weeks. The people who made the show kept the incident private because they were scared about insurance issues and losing their star. Blackman subsequently said that hitting the hard flooring over and over again caused her discomfort that lasted for a long time. She also got a lot of bad attention because of her fame. There was a lot of fan mail, and most of it came from men. A lot of the letters had very clear fantasies in them. Some of them went too far and needed police help. A few admirers tried to find out where she lived, so the studio had to step in to protect her. But she also got a lot of letters from women who respected her bravery and independence. They thought she was more than just a pretty star. She was proof that a woman could be smart, strong, and entirely in charge of her own story. Even though she was doing well, Blackman shocked everyone by leaving the Avengers after 43 episodes. It happened right before the show was going to move to film, add color, and obtain the kind of budget that would guarantee success around the world. Most people thought she departed to play Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, but what she said is different. She thought 2 years was long enough and left at the height of her creativity instead of staying longer for greater earnings. Before she joined the Avengers, her life was just as amazing. She was born on August 22, 1925, in Plaistow, one of East London's toughest slums. She lived in a house without an indoor bathroom until the late 1930s. Her father was a civil service statistician who made just enough money to feed the family. A lot of people in the neighborhood were malnourished, and by 1926, about 18% of kids had stopped growing. Honor found her escape in books and performances. When she was 9, she heard poetry read out loud at a local library, which inspired her. On her 16th birthday in 1941, her father gave her the bizarre choice of a new bike or speech lessons. She chose the lessons. A choice that affected everything for her. Her teacher taught her about Shakespeare and Ibsen, and soon she was going to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. She also worked as a motorbike dispatch rider during the war, delivering communications between Churchill's war offices and hospitals while avoiding bombings. She was known as Top Gear Tessie and occasionally drove 120 miles in one night shift. Her earliest steps into acting were equally as dramatic. When she was 22, she was an understudy in the West End play The Guinea Pig when the main actor unexpectedly got sick. She had no time to prepare, but she stepped on stage and gave a perfect performance, which started her career right away. The next year, while filming Fame is the Spur, she almost died when a horse stomped on her hair during a fight scene and ripped her scalp, and making her bleed a lot. She got better and kept on, determined not to let fear take her. She joined the elite organization's Company of Youth in the 1950s. This was a training program that was supposed to make stars but was known for taking advantage of young actors. She was paid only £10 a week, but she had to go through countless drills and studio control. The stress even made her break down. Still, she kept going and got a good name for herself in movies like Quartet and So Long at the Fair. People already thought of her as a woman who could mix attractiveness with toughness by the time she played Kathy Gale in The Avengers. It was a big risk to cast Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore in Goldfinger. Producer Albert Broccoli recognized that American audiences had never seen her before, even though she was already a well-known name in Britain because of her appearance in the Avengers. He was sure that this would help her. British fans already loved Kathy Gale, who wore leather and threw judo, and American viewers would find a new star who was as strong and smart as James Bond. Instead of recruiting a well-known American woman like Hollywood usually does, Broccoli took a chance on the black man's true martial arts skills and dominating presence. That choice helped make Goldfinger a huge hit around the world. Black guys also breached one of Hollywood's unwritten conventions. She was 39 years old, which was 5 years older than Sean Connery, making her the oldest actress to play a Bond girl at that time. She didn't like the term Bond girl because her character was a pilot, in charge of her own flying team. She wasn't there to look good in the background. She was in charge, knew what she was doing, and had lived a long time. She was older, which gave her character more weight and assurance than a younger actress could have. And it gave her scenes with Connery a distinct kind of tension. The name of the character even generated a fuss. American censors thought Pussy Galore was so upsetting that they didn't let it be shown in many newspaper ads or trailers. A lot of the time, marketers have to call her Miss Galore or Goldfinger's pilot. The creators thought about changing the name for a short time, but in the end, they didn't. Blackman herself got into the fight by mentioning the term on live TV a lot only to see how American interviewers reacted. Her performance was notable not just because she was there, but also because she was physically strong. Blackman had trained hard in judo for the Avengers, getting help from expert teachers Douglas and Lorna Robinson. The filmmakers changed parts of the script to represent Pussy Galore as a combatant since she was so good. In one well-known scene, she really threw Sean Connery to the ground. She really stunned him with real judo moves, which was a level of realism that Bond movies hadn't shown before. This mix of strength, maturity, and audacity altered how women in Bond movies were shown. Blackman said she had never been a bimbo and never would be, therefore she didn't like the idea. Unlike her predecessors Ursula Andress and Daniela Bianchi, who wore provocative outfits, she showed authority via her confidence and practicality. She became a feminist icon in the show, illustrating that a Bond woman could be tough and professional at the same time. Later producers remarked that she would always be recognized as a Bond icon because of how much she affected the franchise. But Goldfinger wasn't the only great thing she did in her career. She played the goddess Hera in Jason and the Argonauts a year before that, in 1963. Ray Harryhausen's innovative stop-motion creatures, such the bronze giant Talos and the skeleton soldiers, made the movie famous. Blackman did a great job on screen, giving Hera both might and mystery while she fought monsters that were introduced later through meticulous animation. She could only help Jason 5 times. There were as many times as his sister had called on her before she died, and her presence gave the movie a chilling feeling of myth and fate. She showed her dramatic range in Life at the Top in 1965, when she starred with Lawrence Harvey and Gene Simmons. She played a smart TV reporter who got connected with Harvey's character. The story was about the problems that come with ambition, marriage, and treachery in industrial Yorkshire. People who didn't like her performance said that every actor was ideal for their role. The movie made it clear that Blackman could do just as well in serious drama as he could in action or fantasy. She also tried her hand at westerns, which was a brave move that put her in the same league as some of Hollywood's biggest stars. She was in Chalaco alongside Sean Connery and Brigitte Bardot in 1968. Blackman subsequently said that making the movie was hard because Bardot was a nightmare. She had just tried to kill herself and needed daily care. The movie was about European aristocrats who went hunting in New Mexico and ended up in Apache land. The critiques weren't very good, but the casting got a lot of attention. In 1971, she starred in Something Big, where she played the kidnapped wife of Dean Martin's aging outlaw. This showed once more how versatile she was. She astonished spectators by playing the blind protagonist in Wait Until Dark on Broadway. The play was a suspense thriller that let her travel through sequences in almost complete darkness, which made the audience feel her character's terror. Critics were shocked by how she went from being a strong action hero to being weak yet determined. She later wowed audiences in musical theater, especially in A Little Night Music in 1979 and The Sound of Music in 1981 with Petella Clark. Even though she had no professional training, people loved her deep, smoky singing voice. The London run of The Sound of Music had the biggest advance sale in British theatre history, breaking box office records. In Noel Coward's Mr. and Mrs., she proved how flexible she was again. In 1968, she played two very different characters in one night, a nagging housewife and a tragic love heroine. Switching between characters so completely showed how versatile she was beyond her action roles. She blurred the barrier between work and home life even in her own life. She starred in the farce Move Over, Mrs. Markham with her second husband, Maurice Kaufman. The play toured the world. They split up in 1975, but they were close friends and even worked together after that. Their two kids often went on tour with them, which was a unique family dynamic in the entertainment business. In the 1990s, Blackman changed herself again for a new generation in the sitcom The Upper Hand. She played Laura West, a stunning older woman who was brave, flirty, and very funny. The show lasted 7 seasons, from 1990 to 1996, and featured 94 episodes. This shows that she was still a big star in her 60s. Blackman became one of the most famous characters on British television at a time when other actresses had trouble finding work once they turned 40. Indicating that age might be seen as a freedom instead of a barrier. In 1946, Honor Blackman married businessman Bill Sankey when she was barely 21 years old. And at first, it looked like the start of a promising future. But the man who was 12 years older suddenly showed a side of himself that made her feel like she was in prison instead than in a partnership. In other respects, he reminded her of her own father, which made her feel uneasy. And it all started with love. Quickly become control. Sankey was so jealous that it drove him crazy. He wanted to know where she was, who she was talking to, and he tried to keep her from starting her acting career. The worst thing that happened was when he said he was going to move to Canada and thought she would have to give up her job without question. What she found next almost broke her entirely. Sonk had been secretly taking money from her bank accounts using what were later called fraudulent business practices. For 8 long years, she lived in a marriage that was suffocating until it eventually dissolved in 1954. The damage had already been done by then. She was so broken that she had a full nervous breakdown and had to go to the hospital. In the 1950s, very few people talked about mental health publicly, and there was a lot of shame around it. But after she left the hospital, she promised herself that she would go to counseling for years. Most public personalities would have kept their problems to themselves, but she quietly rebuilt herself with therapy sessions that became her lifeline. They taught her how to safeguard her self-esteem, set boundaries, and spot manipulation. She had to wait a long time before she could even think about trusting someone again. But those tough experiences helped her become Kathy Gale, the powerful and brave character on the Avengers. She was 37 and ready to start afresh when she married actor Maurice Kaufman in December 1961. At first, it looked like the relationship she had always desired. They knew what the other person was going through. Even acting together in the 1971 thriller Fright and on stage. But there was heartbreak behind the scenes. They really wanted kids, but doctors informed them they couldn't have them together. This news was terrible since it came at a time when being infertile was very embarrassing. After a lot of soul-searching, they decided to adopt. In 1967, they had a daughter named Lottie. Then came Barnaby in 1968. Honor put her all into becoming a mother, juggling her worldwide job with long hours of parenting. While filming, she often relied on a string of au pairs. She later said that she always felt like nothing was good enough. She was determined not to do the same thing that had happened to her as a child. The kids made them happy, but the marriage got worse. Kaufman's career was slowing down, while Honor's was taking off with the Avengers and Goldfinger. This made both of them angry because of the weight of her success versus his troubles. They got a divorce in 1975, after being married for 14 years. Honor later admitted that she felt like a huge failure, especially since she had promised her adoptive kids a safe and loving home. Despite this, she and Kaufman were close friends. When he got cancer, she took care of him through a long and painful 13-year battle that ended with his death in 1997. She made a choice that not many people thought she would after the divorce. She decided to stay unmarried for the following 45 years. When asked why, she just said that she was bashful and liked being alone. People were surprised by it, especially considering she had played some of the strongest and most independent women on TV. But in private, she had learned through painful experience that being alone was much better than being with the wrong people. The choice made her feel better. She stayed faithful to her kids and then her 4 grandkids, Daisy, Oscar, Olive, and Toby. She was happy in her home in Lewis, Sussex, and in her summer residence in Islesboro, Maine. She also put her energy into causes she cared about, such fair trade and political campaigns. Honor never backed down from what she believed in, even when it meant going against the norm. She said no to being named a commander of the Order of the British Empire in 2002. A lot of people in Britain were astonished, but she said that accepting would have been hypocritical. She was a strong Republican and against the monarchy, thus she couldn't accept an award from it. In 2012, she made headlines again when she publicly insulted Sean Connery. She said that during Goldfinger, she had considered him quite attractive, but she couldn't forgive him for obtaining a knighthood while living abroad to avoid paying British taxes. She spoke in a harsh and personal way, adding that she no longer respected his values. Honor spoke up again in 2013, after Margaret Thatcher died. She declared clearly that Thatcher had done little to empower women, associating herself with men and ignoring chances to encourage women to get involved in politics. She also said that she was disappointed with how she handled unions in the Falklands War, stating, "We lost men, we got hurt, and we blew up a ship." She went even farther and said that the Falklands belonged more to Argentina than to Britain. This upset many people because 255 British soldiers died in the war. People were really angry with her for being honest, but she never backed down. Her job, on the other hand, never stopped. She had a great comeback at the age of 75 when she played Penny Husbands Bosworth in Bridget Jones's Diary in 2001. It started more than 10 years of fresh work, with movies like Color Me Kubrick in 2005, reuniting the Rubens in 2010, and Anna in 2012, as well as TV parts in Coronation Street, Casualty, and The Royal. She toured with her one-woman show Wayward Women, which told stories and sang songs about brave women who transformed the world, even when she was in her 80s. People were astounded by her vitality and presence as she took the stage by herself well into her 90s. Honor Blackman passed away quietly at her home in Lewis, East Sussex, on April 5, 2020, at the age of 94. Her family made it clear that she died of natural causes and not because of the coronavirus, which was spreading at the time. She lived for over 100 years, from her birth in Canning Town in 1925 to her last spring in the countryside she loved, surrounded by family. Her kids said she was a very beautiful, smart, and determined woman with a unique voice and an unrivaled work ethic. Not only did she leave behind a legacy of great performances, but she also left behind the story of a woman who lived life exactly how she wanted, no matter what it cost.